Step into Justice Insight Cam. We provide an objective look at real-life law enforcement encounters caught on bodycam. Going beyond the surface, we dissect the legalities, the truth, and the educational aspects of every situation. Let's uncover the reality of policing.
Sir, step away from the mailboxes, please.
Good morning, officers. I'm U.S. Postal Inspector Vincent Marshall.
You are a what?
Postal Inspector. I'm investigating the mail theft complaints in this neighborhood.
Where's your uniform, your postal vehicle?
Postal inspectors are federal criminal investigators.
A federal agent sent to investigate mail theft ends up arrested for mail theft, right in the neighborhood that summoned him to investigate it. This is Vincent Marshall, 42 years old, U.S. Postal Inspector, federal criminal investigator with arrest powers under Title 18 of the United States Code. 18 years of federal service, over 300 investigations, 87% conviction rate, and Officer Ryan Cooper has just handcuffed him for doing exactly what Oakmont Estates residents demanded. When Section Chief Angela Torres gets the call that her federal agent is in police custody, when the department realizes they detained someone with federal jurisdiction over them, this mistake will cost $6.2 million and prove that 18 years of federal service and a gold badge mean nothing when the person carrying them is black in a neighborhood that cannot imagine black federal authority. Leave a comment below if you think showing federal law enforcement credentials should prevent arrest. Vincent Marshall wasn't a mail carrier. Postal workers deliver mail. Vincent investigated federal crimes. U.S. Postal Inspector, a title most people have never heard, but a role with real power. Federal Law Enforcement Authority, arrest powers, jurisdiction that supersedes local police in crimes involving United States mail. 18 years. He had carried the badge, started as a letter carrier at 24, promoted to supervisor at 28, recruited to the Postal Inspection Service at 30, where only 2% of applicants are accepted. The selection process included background investigation, polygraph, physical fitness testing, psychological evaluation, proving you can handle the authority you will carry. He trained at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Georgia, the same facility where Secret Service trains, same curriculum standards as FBI, covering criminal investigation techniques, surveillance, forensics, federal law, arrest procedures, use of force, constitutional rights. 18 years, investigating mail theft rings, identity fraud operations, narcotics trafficking through postal system, mail bombs, child exploitation materials sent through mail. Over 300 cases with 87% conviction rate testified as expert witness in federal court 23 times. Arrests that led to federal prison sentences, investigations that dismantled criminal organizations. Under Title 18, United States Code Section 3061, postal inspectors have authority to make arrests without warrant for federal crimes. They carry firearms, execute search warrants, conduct undercover operations, coordinate with FBI and DEA and Secret Service and ATF in matters involving U.S. mail. They have federal jurisdiction where local police can assist, but postal inspectors lead and their authority supersedes. A postal inspector investigating mail theft technically outranks local police in that investigation. This is not theoretical, this is law. Vincent had worked with local police departments hundreds of times, coordinated investigations, shared jurisdiction, built partnerships. Most officers understood federal jurisdiction once you laid it out, but most officers had never seen a black federal agent, and that was about to become a problem. March 18th, Vincent received the case file. Oakmont Estates, gated luxury community where 14 residents reported mail theft over 6 weeks, including 8 package thefts, 3 credit card frauds, 2 check washing schemes, 1 identity theft. Total estimated loss, $87,000. Federal crimes under Title 18, covering mail theft, identity fraud, check fraud, all federal jurisdiction, all Vincent's responsibility. He reviewed complaint reports, interviewed victims by phone, analyzed the pattern. The thefts were targeted, sophisticated, someone who knew the neighborhood, knew delivery schedules, knew which residents had valuable mail coming. Vincent built an investigation plan covering surveillance, forensic examination of vulnerable mailboxes, resident interviews, security camera review, standard investigative procedure. Today was basic reconnaissance, a daytime walkthrough of mailbox placement, security, sightlines, patterns, and vulnerabilities. He dressed in plain clothes because federal agents do not wear uniforms, the same as FBI and DEA and ATF. He drove his personal vehicle because federal agents conducting investigations do not drive marked vehicles that announced law enforcement presence. He had his credentials, his badge, his federal ID, his investigation equipment, including camera for documentation, notebook for observations, flashlight for examining lock mechanisms, everything legitimate, everything authorized, everything legal. He arrived at Oakmont Estates at 11 a.m., began his work, and someone started watching. Patricia Hendris lived at 1847 Magnolia Circle, 58 years old, retired pharmaceutical executive, 15 years in Oakmont Estates, divorced, lives alone, self-appointed neighborhood watch coordinator. She was one of the residents who reported mail theft when a package was stolen from her porch 3 weeks ago. She had called the post office demanding action, called multiple times, insisted someone investigate immediately, wanted arrests, wanted justice. The Postal Inspection Service assigned Vincent to the case. Patricia did not know that, did not know what a postal inspector looks like, or that they work in plain clothes. Over the past 18 months, Patricia had called 9,117 times, reporting suspicious persons. 6 of those calls involved people of color, including a black landscaping crew working on a neighbor's property, a Latino delivery driver she did not recognize, an Asian family visiting residents down the street, a black teenager walking through the neighborhood. None of those calls resulted in finding criminal activity or resulted in police confrontations with people who belonged exactly where they were. But Patricia kept calling because in her mind, vigilance meant suspicion. 11:15 a.m. Patricia was in her home office when movement caught her eye. A black man in casual clothes, walking slowly down her street, not jogging, not walking with purpose, moving deliberately, stopping every few houses. The man stopped at a cluster of mailboxes, knelt down, pulled out a phone, started taking photographs from multiple angles, close-ups of the mailbox locks, wide shots showing placement. Then he pulled out a notebook and wrote observations while looking at the mailboxes. Then he walked to a sedan parked on the street, opened the trunk, retrieved what looked like equipment, including a professional camera, a clipboard with official-looking documents, a flashlight. He returned to the mailboxes, knelt again, used the flashlight to examine the lock mechanisms, took more photographs with a professional camera, made more notes on the clipboard. He was there for 15 minutes, working methodically, documenting everything. Patricia did not see a federal investigator conducting authorized surveillance. She saw a black man examining mailboxes with tools and cameras, and her mind snapped to the conclusion it had been trained to reach. Black man plus tools, plus mailboxes, plus photographs equals criminal activity. Not could be investigator we asked for. Not could be postal employee checking security. Not should I ask what he is doing before calling police. Just black man near mailboxes equals crime. She pulled out her phone, started taking photos of Vincent from her window, then texted 3 neighbors saying she found the mail thief working on their street right now, taking photos of mailboxes with tools. Then she called 911 11:17 a.m. Patricia reported mail theft in progress at Oakmont Estates on the 1800 block of Magnolia Circle. She described a black male actively examining mailboxes for 20 minutes, taking photographs with professional equipment, checking the locks like he was planning to break into them. When the dispatcher asked if he was in a postal vehicle, Patricia said, "No, not a postal truck. That is what makes it suspicious. If he was legitimate, he would have a postal vehicle." The dispatcher logged the call as possible mail theft, organized crime, professional criminal actively working. Officers received dispatch describing suspect in custody soon if they hurry. Everyone in the chain of communication adopted the framing handed to them. Nobody questioned the foundational assumption that a black man examining mailboxes with professional equipment must be committing crime rather than investigating crime. Officers Ryan Cooper and Jennifer Kim received the dispatch at 11:22 a.m., describing possible mail theft in progress, organized crime suspect, professional equipment, multiple witnesses, active situation. They responded with urgency. Arrived 11:28 a.m., saw exactly what dispatch described. Black male in casual clothes, kneeling by mailboxes with professional camera on the ground beside him, clipboard with documents, flashlight in hand, examining lock mechanism, no postal uniform, no marked vehicle. Cooper exited first with hand near weapon. Kim followed positioning to the side. Vincent heard the car pull up, looked up from the mailbox, saw police officers approaching with aggressive body language. Knew this could escalate if he did not handle it perfectly. He stood slowly, kept his hands visible, made no sudden movements, spoke clearly and calmly. "Good morning, officers. I am U.S. Postal Inspector Vincent Marshall. I am conducting an investigation." Cooper stopped 10 feet away. "You are a what?" "Postal Inspector, Federal Law Enforcement. I'm investigating the mail theft complaints in this neighborhood. Residents have reported multiple incidents over the past 6 weeks. I have been assigned to the case. Where is your uniform? Your postal vehicle?" Vincent kept his voice professional. Postal inspectors are federal criminal investigators. "We do not wear uniforms. We work in plain clothes like FBI or DEA. We are not postal workers. We are law enforcement officers who investigate federal crimes involving mail." Kim circled slightly. "What are you doing with the mailboxes?" "I'm conducting forensic documentation, examining which mailboxes have been targeted, looking for patterns in vulnerability and placement, taking photographs for my investigation file. This is standard investigative procedure for mail theft cases." Cooper's hand remains near his weapon. "Do you have identification?" "Yes, federal credentials. I am reaching into my pocket to retrieve them." Vincent moved deliberately, reached into his windbreaker, pulled out his leather credentials case, opened it, held it toward Cooper. Gold badge showing United States Postal Inspection Service with eagle and shield emblem and badge number. USPIS 4728. Federal ID card with Vincent's photograph, name, position, Department of Justice seal. Cooper took the credentials, examined them, turned them over, looked at the badge closely, looked at the ID card, looked at Vincent, looked back at the credentials. "Postal Inspector, I've never heard of that." Vincent remained calm. "Most people have not. We are a small federal agency, about 1,200 inspectors nationwide. We have been around since 1772, older than the FBI. We investigate federal crimes involving U.S. mail." Kim looked at the credentials over Cooper's shoulder. "How do we know these are real? Anyone could print a fake badge." Vincent felt a flicker of frustration rise. "So these are federal law enforcement credentials issued by the United States Postal Inspection Service under the Department of Justice. You can verify them immediately. My supervisor is Section Chief Angela Torres at the Philadelphia Field Office. Her direct number is on my card. You can also call the Postal Inspection Service Operations Center 24/7 verification line. They will confirm my credentials, my badge number, and my assignment to this case. Cooper held the credentials, but did not move to make a call. We need to verify your identity before we let you continue. I have given you 2 phone numbers for immediate verification. You can make those calls right now. This will take less than 5 minutes to confirm. Patricia Hriss crossed the street with 3 other residents she had texted. Officers, thank God you are here. This man has been going through our mailboxes for 20 minutes. I saw him with tools and cameras. He is the one who has been stealing from us. Vincent turned to her respectfully. Ma'am, I am U.S. Postal Inspector Vincent Marshall. I am investigating the mail thefts you reported. I am here because residents of this neighborhood filed complaints with the post office. The Postal Inspection Service assigned me to investigate. I am doing the job you asked for. Patricia's expression was certain. You are lying. Postal workers wear uniforms. You are in regular clothes trying to steal our mail. Postal workers wear uniforms. Postal inspectors are federal criminal investigators. We work in plain clothes. I have shown these officers my federal law enforcement credentials. A second resident stepped forward. I have never seen a postal inspector. How do we know you are not just some criminal with fake credentials? Watch what is happening. Vincent has federal credentials, has explained his investigation, has offered immediate verification, but 4 white residents are telling 2 police officers that the black man with the federal badge must be lying, and the officers are listening to the white residents instead of calling the number the federal agent provided. Officer Cooper looked at Vincent, looked at the residents, made his decision. Sir, until we can verify your identity and your authority, we are going to detain you. Vincent's voice hardened. Detain me, officers. I have shown you federal law enforcement credentials. I have provided verification contact information. I have explained my lawful investigative activity. Under what authority are you detaining a federal agent conducting an authorized investigation? Officer Kim pulled out handcuffs. Sir, turn around. Hands behind your back. Vincent did not move. I am Special Agent Vincent Marshall, United States Postal Inspection Service, badge number 4728. I am conducting an authorized federal investigation. You are about to interfere with a federal investigation and unlawfully detain a federal law enforcement officer. Cooper's voice was firm. Turn around now. Vincent turned, felt Officer Kim's hands on his arms, felt the cold metal of handcuffs close around his wrists, heard the click of the mechanism locking. He was under arrest, a federal law enforcement officer with 18 years of service detained by local police for doing his job in front of the community he was assigned to protect. Patricia watched with satisfaction. The neighbors recorded on their phones. Vincent's voice was controlled, but the anger underneath was ice. You have interfered with a federal investigation. You've detained me after I identified myself and offered verification. This choice is going to cost your department $6.2 million. This is Vincent Marshall, 18 years U.S. Postal Inspector, federal law enforcement with arrest authority, investigating mail theft that residents demanded someone investigate. And he is being arrested for mail theft while investigating mail theft after showing federal credentials because 4 white residents said he looked suspicious. 11:45 a.m. at Riverside Police Station. Vincent was photographed, fingerprinted, asked to empty his pockets, revealing wallet containing federal ID, car keys, phone, a notebook with investigation notes, nothing suggesting criminal activity, everything suggesting exactly what he claimed. He was placed in a detention room, still in handcuffs, still being processed as a suspect. He requested to call his supervisor, but was denied until after processing. 12 p.m. Officer Cooper finally called the number Vincent provided. Section Chief Angela Torres answered professionally. Then her voice changed to alarm. when Cooper said he had someone claiming to be Postal Inspector Vincent Marshall. "You have him? What do you mean you have Vincent? Where is he?" Cooper tried to explain they detained him for acting suspiciously around mailboxes, but Torres cut him off with ice-cold precision. The Officer Cooper Vincent Marshall is a special agent with the United States Postal Inspection Service, conducting an authorized federal investigation of mail theft in Oakmont Estates. He has been assigned to this case for 2 weeks. Did he show you his credentials? Yes, but we needed to verify. Did he show you his federal law enforcement badge and identification card? Yes. Did he identify himself as a postal inspector and explain his investigation? Yes, but we had residents saying Torres's voice was dangerously quiet. Let me be very clear. Vincent Marshall is a federal law enforcement officer with arrest authority under Title 18. He has federal jurisdiction in mail theft investigations in matters involving U.S. mail. His authority supersedes yours, and you have detained him after he showed credentials, after he identified himself, after he explained his lawful activity. Get me your supervisor. Get Vincent out of detention. I am on my way. 12:05 p.m. Sergeant David Miller was called to the station, told that federal agent was in detention. Not suspect, but agent. He pulled the body camera footage and watched Vincent show credentials, heard him identify as postal inspector, heard him explain the investigation, heard him offer verification numbers, watched officers handcuff him. Anyway, Miller's face went pale because he knew immediately what he was looking at. A federal civil rights case, a lawsuit the city could not win, a settlement in the millions. Get him out of detention right now. Remove the handcuffs and get me Chief Morrison. We have a serious problem. 12:10 p.m. Vincent was brought from the detention room, handcuffs removed, 36 minutes in custody. And Sergeant Miller's expression was carefully neutral, already thinking about liability. Inspector Marshall, you're free to go. There was a misunderstanding about your status. We apologized for the inconvenience. Vincent looked at him. 36 minutes of being treated like a criminal when he was federal law enforcement. Inconvenience. You handcuffed a federal agent after he showed you credentials and offered immediate verification. You detained me for over 30 minutes. You did this in front of the community I am here to protect, compromising my investigation. You interfered with a federal investigation of mail theft. That is not a misunderstanding, Sergeant. That is a violation of federal law. 12:20 p.m. Angela Torres walked into the station. She found Sergeant Miller in the hallway and spoke quietly, but her words carried devastating weight. Sergeant Vincent Marshall has 18 years of federal service. He showed your officers federal law enforcement credentials. He identified his agency and his case. He offered verification that would have taken less than 5 minutes. Your officers ignored all of that and detained him. They interfered with a federal investigation. Our Office of Inspector General will be conducting an investigation. Our attorneys will be reviewing for civil rights violations, and Inspector Marshall will be filing a personal lawsuit. Vincent's investigation was compromised irreparably. Everyone in Oakmont Estates now knew a postal inspector had been working in plain clothes, knew he was documenting mailbox vulnerabilities, knew the federal government was investigating. If the mail thief lived in the neighborhood, they knew investigation was active. Vincent could not conduct further surveillance without being recognized. The element of surprise was gone. He would have to request reassignment of the case with another inspector, starting from the beginning. Weeks of work lost. Here's what the officers missed. Vincent Marshall was not pretending to be law enforcement. He was law enforcement, federal law enforcement with authority that exceeded local police in his jurisdiction. Under Title 18, Section 361, postal inspectors have power to make arrests without warrant for federal crimes, execute search warrants, carry firearms, conduct investigations with full federal authority. In mail theft cases, postal inspectors lead and local police assist if requested. But the federal agent has jurisdiction, makes decisions, directs the investigation. Vincent could have arrested the officers for interfering with his federal investigation. He would not because he was professional, because he wanted reform, not revenge. But legally, he had that authority. That is what federal jurisdiction means. That is what 18 years of federal service means. That is what the badge means. But none of it mattered because the person carrying that authority was black. And black authority is not recognized the same way white authority is. 3 weeks after Vincent's arrest, another package was stolen from Oakmont Estates. Then 2 more the following week, then a credit card stolen from a mailbox and used for $1,500 in fraudulent charges. The mail thefts continued because the investigation had been disrupted. Eventually, a different postal inspector was assigned, a white female investigator, who also worked plain clothes and also examined mailboxes and also took photographs. Patricia Hendris saw her twice and never called 911, never reported suspicious activity because the new inspector was white, because white people examining mailboxes look official, even in plain clothes, while black people examining mailboxes look criminal, even with federal badges. The new inspector caught the suspect 4 weeks later. 19-year-old white male, son of Oakmont Estates residents, stealing mail to fund heroin addiction, had been operating for 3 months. Patricia had seen him around the mailboxes multiple times and never once called police because he was white, because he belonged, because her bias only saw threat in black skin. The person she called police on was the federal agent trying to catch the actual criminal. The person she never called police on was the actual criminal stealing her mail. That is how racial bias undermines the safety people claim to want. 10 weeks after the arrest, attorney Marcus Brennan filed a lawsuit in federal court naming the city of Riverside officers Ryan Cooper and Jennifer Kim and Patricia Hendris. This was not a local civil rights case, but federal with different rules, different standards, different consequences. Claims included violation of federal civil rights under Title 42, Section 1983, false arrest of federal law enforcement officer, interference with federal investigation under Title 18, Section 111, deprivation of federal authority under color of law, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and professional defamation. The evidence was overwhelming. Live body camera footage showing Vincent identify himself, immediately show federal credentials, explain his investigation clearly, offer verification contacts, being handcuffed. Despite all of that, federal employment records proving 18 years of service with 300 investigations and 87% conviction rate. Section Chief Torres's sworn statement that Vincent was assigned to Oakmont Estates case with authorized investigation using standard methods. Postal Inspection Service case file showing Vincent's assignment and the disruption caused by his arrest. Patricia Hendrix's 911 call history showing 7 calls in 18 months with 6 involving people of color and 0 resulting in finding criminal activity. Pattern of racial profiling documented and undeniable. The city's attorneys reviewed everything, consulted with federal prosecutors, he spoke with Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, and reached one conclusion. This case could not be won. Settlement negotiations began at month 8, 12 months after the arrest. Settlement was finalized at $6.2 million with $1.4 million to Vincent Marshall for violation of federal civil rights and $4.8 million in punitive damages paid by the city. Officer Ryan Cooper received 120-day suspension without pay, required federal law enforcement recognition training, permanent notation that he detained federal agent with career effectively over and transferred to evidence room desk duty. Officer Jennifer Kim received 60-day suspension without pay, with required training and formal reprimand, stalling career advancement indefinitely. Patricia Hendris was personally liable for $125,000, paid through homeowner insurance. He's required to complete 40 hours of racial bias education, publicly named in federal lawsuit as having interfered with federal investigation, became known in Oakmont Estates as the person who cost the city $6 million. Sergeant David Miller received written reprimand for failing to immediately release Vincent once federal credentials confirmed. Mandatory department-wide training on federal law enforcement agencies with all officers, required to learn what federal credentials look like and what federal jurisdiction means. New protocol requiring any person showing federal law enforcement credentials to have those credentials verified within 5 minutes, or person immediately released cannot detain federal agent without supervisor approval and documented probable cause. Liaison program established with federal agencies, including Postal Inspection Service and FBI and DEA and ATF and Secret Service, all providing training to local police on when federal agents might be operating in plain clothes. Database created tracking 911 calls with repeat callers, whose calls do not result in finding criminal activity flagged after 3 incidents. Patricia's 7 calls triggered immediate review, and she was prohibited from calling 911 for non-emergency purposes. For 2 years, OCE Postal Inspection Service filed formal complaint requiring coordination protocol where federal agents conducting investigations notify local police in advance when possible. Your Department of Justice Civil Rights Division declined criminal prosecution of officers, but issued formal finding that civil rights were violated and federal authority was improperly challenged. Then issued guidance memorandum to law enforcement agencies nationwide that federal law enforcement officers working in plain clothes must be recognized and respected, with local officers who detain federal agents after seeing credentials facing federal civil rights liability. $6.2 million. Bought policy changes, training programs, verification protocols, federal coordination, individual accountability, but it did not change the calculation that happened on Magnolia Circle that morning. Vincent showed federal credentials, explained federal investigation, offered federal verification, and was arrested anyway because 4 white residents said he looked suspicious, and their word carried more weight than his badge. Patricia saw white mail around mailboxes multiple times and never called police, never reported suspicious activity because white people in white neighborhoods look like they belong, even when stealing. She saw black federal agents around mailboxes once and called police immediately. Organized neighbors reported mail theft because black people in white neighborhoods look criminal even when showing badges. The settlement created consequences for that double standard, made it expensive, made it public, made it painful. But the thinking that creates the double standard remains built into assumptions about who looks legitimate, about who carries authority, about who belongs in spaces of power and protection. And Vincent Marshall spent 18 years earning a federal badge, investigated over 300 cases, testified in federal court, protected communities from mail theft and fraud and identity crime. He was assigned to investigate the exact problem Oakmont Estates residents demanded someone solve, and he was arrested for solving it while showing federal credentials, while offering verification, while explaining his federal authority because a white woman saw a black man and assumed crime, and police believed her instead of believing his badge. The $6.2 million settlement created accountability through officer suspensions, federal coordination protocols, training on federal jurisdiction, individual liability for false reporting, and systemic reforms. So, here is my question. Should local officers who detain federal agents after seeing credentials face criminal prosecution instead of just suspension? Should repeat 911 callers whose reports never find crime be banned from calling for non-emergencies? Should federal agencies have stronger legal protections when local police interfere with federal investigations? Share your thoughts in the comments. This story proves that even 18 years of federal service, even a federal badge, even federal jurisdiction cannot protect you when bias determines who looks legitimate. But it also shows that federal authority creates accountability, that patents can be exposed, that interference with federal investigations carries consequences. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next.
Thank you for joining us. If you appreciate this level of detail, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to Justice Insight Cam. Stay knowledgeable, keep yourself safe, and tune in for our next update.